Hello friends, and welcome to this session of DevOps series. So this is the 12th video of the DevOps series, and 11th video till 11th we already released. So you have seen that in the first video we installed a Jenkins on a EC2 machine, and we installed the Git as well and integrate the Git and the Java with the Jenkins settings. And after that, we did a manual installation, Maven installations, and we done a first job of Maven. After that, we installed a Tomcat on a different EC2 instance. So this is the architecture that we covered till that part. That whenever the developer puts the code into the GitHub, the Jenkins have the cron jobs which listening and keep on monitoring for any changes that we pushed into the GitHub, and it in case it find a push or changes happens, the Jenkins job will start running for that applications to just produce the artifacts, and that artifacts will move into the different EC2 machines where we have a Tomcat. And Tomcat server is also have the integrations with the Jenkins that we already covered in the previous video. I'm just giving you the overview what we performed in the previous video so you have a clear picture. If you didn't see my previous video till 11th part, then please go and have a look to have a better understanding on the DevOps cycles. So in this way you have a better clarity how the things work as DevOps prospect. So whenever the changes, the artifact will move into the Tomcat, the end user can see the changes. So the changes will be get reflected whatever the developer puts the code into the GitHub. Okay, in the next part, what we did, we in place of Tomcat, we introduced a different EC2 instance where we installed the Docker, and we are using the base image as a Tomcat. And whenever the developer again pushing the code into the GitHub, Amazon, which have the Jenkins, keep on listening for any changes, and the artifacts will move to the Docker directory, Docker home directory, and there we have a Docker files, which we have a Jenkins setting for all the commands where we executing all the commands for creating the image and creating the container out of the Docker images. And again, the end user will have reflections, or you can say whatever the changes developer puts into the GitHub, end user can able to see it. But this time, the changes that produced is through a container, not from the Tomcat server, because we are using the Tomcat image as the base image, and where we are moving the artifacts to the container path. So we already covered these all things, and this contains in 7 parts, 7 and 8, where we are doing the integrations, moving the artifacts to Jenkins Docker server, and here we are creating the Docker images. Now the problem with the Docker images that we have when we have second times we are pushing, then we are using the same image name, and in that case the Docker the Jenkins build is unstable, and we already seen that. So if to overcome this problem, we are bringing the Ansible into the picture, where we are going to write some Ansible playbook, and Ansible playbook will create a image out of the Docker file, and from the Docker images we are going to create a Docker container. So we already covered this into the 10th part, where we have Ansible setup, integrations with the Docker host on another EC2 machine, and the Ansible integrations with the Jenkins server on the another EC2. So we already covered this. So we have currently three EC2 instance. We removed the Tomcat server because that is out of scope. We have the Jenkins server where we have the Java and Web and all the things installed. We have the Ansible, which we covered already. What we have in this particular server, and the Docker Docker server one. So I'm going to show you the jobs. Currently, we have the two jobs at the Jenkins thing. One is to deploy a Docker container and deploy on container using the Ansible. So this job will uh, move the artifacts from Jenkins. Okay, whenever we push the code into the Jenkins, the Jenkins will move the artifacts to the Docker container. Okay, and the Jenkins will create image out of the Docker file, and out of Docker images, the Jenkins itself creating the container. Okay, so I'm going to show you all the things. So this is the recap. Not only the recap, we are going to write Ansible playbook first time. That Ansible will create Docker images out of Docker file again in the similar way that the Jenkins performed in the previous video. This time the Jenkins playbook will playing that particular part. So I plan to recap all these things to have a better understanding, and then I will jump to write Ansible playbook, which will again going to create a image. Ansible playbook will create an image, and after that the Docker container will be created by the Ansible playbook itself. So this is the Docker container. I'm just going to give a setting overview what we did it into this particular container. If you go to the configurations for this particular job, you can find it all the settings here. Like from where we are, this is the GitHub path for our applications, and we are not going to use the pull SCM. We removed it because we are going to do it in a manual way, and we will give you the what is the complexity that you already seen in the previous video. So let's first see the I'm connected with the mobile extreme, and here we have the Jenkins server which we connected with that particular instance, and this is the Docker server. Okay, this is the user that we created in the previous video, and here is the Ansible server. Okay, so if you look into this uh, path where we are currently, we are inside the Docker admin, which is under the Docker home. So let's do ls. So we have a Docker file. If you cat the Docker file, you can find that it's doing it's just using the base image as a Tomcat, and this particular artifacts we are moving into the Docker container. So that's it. This is the things. If you look into the when we created that particular artifact, so it's created today only 12:32. So I am going to and one more thing. Do we have any Docker images? Docker images. So we currently don't have, and we don't have the container as well, because if we don't have the images, there is no meaning to have a container. But let's check it. ps-a as well for the stop container. We don't have anything. So it's, you can say I removed all the things to just give you a recap. Now I am going to run this particular job, this one, the Docker container. Then after I will come again for the Ansible. I'm going to build it one more time. So you can see that the build started. It's in progress. You can monitor all the output from this particular console output, and here you will find all the things that it will move the artifacts after building it to the Docker container, and there it's again will create an image container, and we will going to access it. from the browser so that it will reflect all the changes. So let's have a look. Do we have anything here? So you can see that the artifacts get moved because the time already got changed. Previously we have 12:32, now 14:02. So you can see that we have the latest artifacts here, and it's also get have successful message. Sorry. So now I'm going to see the Docker images. Do we have any? So you can see that we have the two images. This is the base image, and this is the image that I created from the Jenkins execute command. Okay. Docker ps. So we have a running container as well. So let's try to access it. Going to the Docker server, fetching the IP. Okay. Web. Do it one more time. I think there is 28080. This is correct. So you can see that our changes is now able to reflect from the Docker container. So you can see that the Docker part is now clear. Now I'm going to do the similar things with the Ansible that we did previously as well. So I'm going to jump into the Ansible server, and where we have to see where currently we are. So we are currently inside the opt Docker ls. So you can see that we have one artifact which we did in our 11th video. You already see. I'm just giving you the recap, and after that we will move it to build Ansible playbook. ls ltr. So you can see the timing 12:25, and now I'm going to stop this. Just close that particular browser that we are running for the Docker container. Now I am going to run this particular job, and this will again move the artifacts to the Ansible server. So you can see that it's in progress. We can jump into the console output, and it's also able to transfer one file, and the message is successful. Now I'm going to run the same command. So you can see the timings 12:25, and now we have the new artifacts here, that is 14:05. Okay, so we already covered the recap of the previous video. So you have all the things. You understand what we covered till now in a 5 or 10 minutes session. So now currently I am going to write a Ansible playbook, and that particular Ansible playbook will use this particular var file, and out of this var file it will going to create an image. But before creating the image we need a Docker file. The similar way we have for the Ansible here. So what I am going to do, I am going to copy all the commands. ls vi Docker file. I am going to copy it. Okay. Now I'm going to create a Docker file into the Ansible server. You can just focus it here that currently I'm in the Ansible server because I already changed the host name. For this we have a Docker server. For this we have a Jenkins server. So I already changed the host name for because from the IP it's not clear that currently in which server which servers currently I am using. So better to just look into these particular things that currently in the Docker server. Now I am moving to the Ansible server. So I am going to create one file of name Docker file. Okay, in the similar way we have here also Docker file. So I'm going to copy it here, and I'm just going to close, save and exit. Okay, so let's monitor one more times that we have the content. Okay, so we have all the content here. So we created a Docker file because this Docker file, from this Docker file, we are going to create a Docker images. Out of Docker images, we are going to create a Docker container, but using the Ansible playbook this time. So we are going to write Ansible playbook. So this particular session is not to learn about the Ansible playbook, but I will tell you what initial steps, how to write an Ansible playbook. So I'm going to write a small Ansible playbook so you have the understanding for this particular sessions. But if you want to learn about the Ansible playbook in detail, so you have to refer some other videos. I'm going to write or details about the Ansible playbook. So in the different videos, so you can refer that particular videos for to have a better understanding on the Ansible playbook details. So for this particular session, I'm going to write a small Ansible playbook and give you some details about it as well. So I'm going to write a Ansible playbook with name Ansible Docker image, and the extension is YML. Okay, here you have to write Ansible playbook. If you don't know, let me help you how to write Ansible playbook. It will start with a 3 dash or 3 hyphen, you can say. So first click on the I button to just have insert some symbol. Okay, so this is the first thing. Then after that you have to write hosts. Okay, and here you have to mention all because actually this will tell you about which host you want to run this particular playbook. So for this particular playbook I am using all, and after that we come true. So we can change it while running the playbook, but for this particular session, we are putting it as all, so that it will work for the target machine. Like we have, if you remember the 11th video, we also have the host of the Docker and the local host as well, where we pinged and checked the connectivity between the local host also. So we shared the key or things like for the local host also and for the Docker host also. So if you did have any confusion in understanding, you can refer the 11th video of this particular series. And the true is means that it's on the remote system. So do you want to become a root or not? So we just pass it as a true to become a root user. And now we are going to add some tasks. Okay, you have to be very careful about the indentations of this particular YAML file, because otherwise it will complain you with error. The name, we are going to put some descriptions like what we are going to perform. This is the task, and the several tasks you can add. This is the first task, like building. Okay, Docker images using var file. Okay, This is my descriptions for this particular task. And what command we are going to use? In the same command, the docker build minus t, and the name of the Docker image is Ansible Docker image and dot. Okay. Args, the argument part, we are going to use chdir. So basically what this command is doing, it's saying that change to directory opt docker, where we have a docker file. You already seen that, and when you moved into that particular directory, run this command docker build minus t ansible, and this is the docker images using the whatever exists in that particular file, that is the war file. So using that particular war file, create a docker images where you have the docker file. So okay, so it will create an image using that docker file, whatever in the docker file, and try to create an image. So just going to run it. First we are going to save it. This is the Ansible playbook, the small Ansible playbook that I written. Okay, and we already saved this, and we are currently in the pwd. You can see the opt docker file, where we have a docker file, the YAML file, and the var file. Okay, so currently we have to monitor the environment. So you can see we don't have any images here. It's fresh environment. We already moved artifacts. Docker ps minus a, we don't have any running container or a stopped container. Okay, so now we need to create an image. We need to create an image using the Ansible playbook, that will use the Docker file and will create the Ansible. Okay, so but before that we need to I need to do one settings here. If you cat this particular path, etc Ansible hosts. If you remember this, we provided the host path at a Docker private IP and the local host, but this time we are only using the local host. Okay, in the Ansible server we have the Docker already installed, because we are able to run the command here. Okay. So you understand that we already have installed Docker installed in this particular machine, but this will target to this particular Docker server as well and the local host as well. But for this particular sessions, we are only targeting to the local host, so we have to create one file of name host, where we are going to put a local host, because currently we are targeting to create an image and container in the local machines, not in the Docker target machines as a Docker server. Okay. So now I am going to run a playbook, Ansible playbook, Ansible minus I host Ansible YAML file, and before running we are going to check it. It will not execute anything, but it will give you if there is some error in this particular syntax or in the file as well. So it will monitor all the things. So you can see that the failure is 0. The changes is fine. So we don't have any problem either in the syntax of running the playbook or in the YAML file which we written as a Ansible playbook. So we are good to proceed. So now we are going to remove the check. So it will try to create an image, and it's now downloading the Tomcat image base file. So it might take some time because we don't have any images in the system. We created a Docker file. That Docker file is using Tomcat as a base images, and then we are moving the artifacts to the Docker container. So the base file is sometimes take some minutes because it's depend upon your network connections. As my network connections is a little faster, so it will not take much time. And you can see that we have a success message that OK is equal to true. So second times it will display a green flag. So now I'm going to see Docker images. We have images also available on net. So we have the images that Tomcat base images, and on the top of the Tomcat base images we have the Ansible Docker images available. But currently we don't have any container because we didn't write any command in the Ansible playbook to create a Docker container out of the Docker images. So let's verify it as well. So we don't have any container, we don't have any stopped container. Okay, so we are going to edit the similar Ansible playbook to just uh, produce some container also out of this particular particular images. So I'm going to write. So you have to be very careful about the indentations. The name will be whatever you want to write in building Docker container out of image. Okay, this fine. Okay, so now I am going to use the command for this. Docker run, a similar command that we already used several times. Detach mode, and the name we are going to use this time as Ansible Docker. This is my container name. Okay, the port that I am going to use 8080. This is the host and this is the container. Okay, the similar port, and the image that I am going to use, I'm just going to copy it so we don't have any typo. Okay, so we have the images, so I'm going to save it. If you want to run a check a second time, you can do it. It's better to run a check command. So you can see that this time also we have the green signal here that the YAML file and all the commands is correct. Now I am going to remove it. So we already have images. Now it's a job to create a container. Just have a look. Either it's able to create a container or not. So we already have the images. Now Docker ps. So you can see that the container able to create. So playbook is able to create an image out of the Docker file, and the Docker file from the Docker images we are able to create a container. So you can see we are using the Docker and the Ansible playbook for all these steps. But in the next video, we are going to practice how to do this activity when we push the code to the GitHub. So whenever the user push the code to GitHub, it's a responsibility of the Jenkins to execute the Ansible playbook and do all this stuff. So there will be some complexity like we face in the for the Docker, but how to overcome those situations, like if the images already exist, container already exists, then we can't create use the similar image name or the container name to again create a image similar images or container. So in that case, we will see how we are going to overcome those problems with the Ansible playbook. And in further video, we will see how to create an image and then push it to the Docker Hub. And we will bring our Kubernetes cluster into the picture, and the Kubernetes cluster will fetch the images from the Docker Hub. So each time for any changes, the Ansible will create a image, the similar images, and it will push the images, the latest images on the latest artifact to the Docker Hub. And from there, the Kubernetes deployment script will fetch the latest images and deploy into the Kubernetes cluster as a pod. So these all plan we will going to execute in the next you can say the 4 and 5 videos. So you can see that this is a very good series for learning the DevOps related things. So if you guys like my video, please subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends as well. Click on the like button and share it with in your group to have a better learning environment. Thank you for watching this video and keep learning.